Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Quantum Compass. My name is David Fowler and I'll be one of your navigators for today.
I'm Bella Alvaran. Welcome back.
So this is for the incoming wave spell of the White Magnetic Dog, which starts on the 24th of December and runs through until
January the 5th.
January the 5th. And of course, it does include a very special day for most people, which of course is the Christmas Day or Christmas Day. And we're going to be having a look at some special transits, we can say, that are taking place over this period, which really follow on from many of the videos that we've been putting out over the last couple of weeks here on QPW. So we're going to be taking a bit of a deep dive into what those energies mean. And for those of you that have certain placements in a certain part of the zodiac, we invite you to pay special attention because we feel that we're on the cusp or the threshold of something incredibly important, maybe something that hasn't even happened for several millennia. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, right, Bella? So as usual, you've pulled up a presentation for us to talk through the key talking points.
Yes, let's start with the Mayan wave spell, which is the first part of the quantum compass. Then we'll get into the astrology and the plant for this wave spell, which is one of my favorite plants.
Right, yes. So this is the wave spell of the White Magnetic Dog, which is really all about the heart, isn't it, Bella?
About the heart, about unconditional love, and how appropriate for this time of Christmas and the welcoming of the Christ consciousness. So let's start with the Mayan wheel. This is the medicine wheel, and the White Magnetic Dog is one of the glyphs, which is part of the White tribe, which is a process of refinement of energy. So we're coming out of the red earth, and we're going, which initiated a process. Now with the White Dog, we're going to refine that process that started in the last wave spell.
Right.
And it's also a new castle.
Right, yes, that's really important. But also just to recap, for those of you that maybe are still catching up, we've just, we are still in the red magnetic Earth wave spell, and we were talking a lot about the importance of going into the womb of Mother Earth, which is what this period between the 21st of December and the 25th of December is really all about, particularly here in the Northern Hemisphere, as there is a lack of daylight and also a lack of nature energy out there for us to draw on. So this is a time of the year when we're encouraged to go inwards into the womb space, to dream, to reflect upon, release anything that no longer serves us so that we can emerge like from the chrysalis, we can say, or from the womb space with a new impetus and perhaps a series of new inspirations.
And we made a video about the solstice and going into the womb space, stillness, reflection. So if you want to go deeper into the energy of what the solstice was telling us, there is a video we released just a couple of days ago.
Right, and so we are recording this in the middle of those sort of 3 days of darkness in the womb space, not anything to be scared of. There are many kind of fear-mongering ideas out there, but we really believe that being in the darkness is being in the place of creation. And of course, we want to illuminate that space with the highest of vibrations. Hence why these 3 days are so important and why we've been paying so much attention to this and inviting all of you to step into that space with us.
And the Mayan calendar and the cosmology we follow has 13 tones, and it also has 13 moons or months of 28 days each. And this is a way of reconnecting with natural time and with universal time. So this is what we're trying to do, following the natural spirals of time. So right now we're still in the rhythmic moon of equality, which invites us to bring organic balance into our lives, balance in all of the areas of our lives, balance in our relationships, balance of the masculine and feminine within ourselves. So it's all about rhythmic balance. And the totem is still this beautiful lizard, which is all to do with regeneration. We're in that process of deep transformation and regeneration. Let's remember that this year that we started in July is still the storm year. So it's been quite a stormy year, and I think it will continue to be until about March, April, maybe even into May. But we already have tools, and the wave spells are a really good compass on how to navigate this storm.
Right, and I think it's really interesting, as we're going to see in the unfolding of this episode, why the energy of the rhythmic tone or the balance or number 6 or day 6 is so important, because it's really about the balancing of the internal frequencies, but particularly the masculine and feminine energies. And of course, the lizard is also representative of shedding skins.
Shedding skin. And
which is perhaps something that we can all aspire to at this time of the year.
So we're still in the yellow castle. This is the second wave spell of that castle, which is a cycle of 52 days. And what this wave spell is showing us is that we're going to go into the second part of the soul kin. We have already moved from the middle, from the mystical columns, and now we're going into day 170 or kin 170 through 182. But it's all about teaching us how to reconnect to our heart after we have been doing all of these previous wave spells and castles. So this wave spell runs from December 24th up to January the 5th.
And also, just perhaps if we can go back there a second, Bella, as always, want to point out kin number 176, which is a galactic activation portal day, a day where it's much easier to communicate with our galactic selves or our off-planet ancestors.
And 173, which is a Skywalker day as well.
Right, yes, oh, I didn't see that one there. So that will probably be important in this wave spell, so please do pay attention to those.
So day 4 and 7 are galactic portals. These are the glyphs so that you get more familiar with them. And let's talk about the energy of this wave spell. So it has amazing qualities. It's about reconnecting with loyalty, with having heart connections, activating our heart connection, but also connecting to others through the heart, from the heart. It also connects us to our spiritual strength, invites us to live from that point of unconditional love, acceptance. At this point of the shift, we need a lot of acceptance, especially with the amount of changes that are happening and the amount of redemption processes that are going on. So we will see lots of things out there where we'll have to put compassion, we'll have to put acceptance into these processes, and so that we can move forward. We can't get stuck emotionally anymore. So this wave spell is inviting us to reconnect with honesty, transparency, devotion, patience, also tolerance towards the others. And this is a time when we're gathered with friends and family. So there are going to be many topics where we'll probably differ and still some wounds from the past. So this beautiful energy is telling us, remember tolerance, don't judge the others because they are showing you just exactly what you haven't worked through yet, or you still need to finalize. And this white dog is also inviting us to reconnect to our guardians and guides, also to those friends. Maybe you've made new friends that are in a new frequency, people that you probably wouldn't have connected with before because we were in a completely different frequency. And now that we bring authenticity, which is another quality of the white dog, now that we are more of our true selves, we will attract other people that are more in the same frequency. So this white dog energy is also telling us, resolve your emotional life, bring it to a place of balance, bring it to a place of clarity, transparency, authenticity.
You think we could also perhaps add in there the energy of forgiveness?
Big time, yes.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Which could be important, you know, if we think about many of the things that have happened to all of us over the last few years, especially, but probably all of our lives. And when we see that the things are all connected in different ways, there are probably a lot of beings that we are going to need to give forgiveness to for the actions that they have taken that have gotten all of us to this point. But this is duality, everybody, and we all signed up, every one of us, to be a part of this. And that is one of the anchor points, certainly, Bella, that I use for forgiveness, or have done over the last few years, when I look at some of the more challenging or troublesome aspects of the last period.
And over this wave spell, we want to pay attention to the shadow work, which is any unresolved wounds connected to our relationships, family, partners, children, any relationship. And if you're still stuck in pain, whether it's physical or emotional, you still get triggered by certain things. So those are things to review. Issues with being possessive, jealousy, or bringing any emotional drama. The white dog is telling you that's part of the shadow. And if you put your energy there, you're going to miss out on all of the good things that we're ready to receive right now. So the other part of the shadow is if you still feel unsupported, and it's because you're expecting, you have too many expectations from external sources, you think that the support is only going to come from outside, when all of the resources are inside of ourselves. So if you feel unsupported, it's because you haven't tapped into your inner abundance or inner light. And obviously sharing conditional love. I know that many times we don't realize, maybe as mothers or as wives or grandmothers, that we put too many conditions on the others, and sometimes we manipulate and we think we're acting from a place of love. But let's review those. Are we really being unconditional about the love that we give to our families and partners? And so the last tips for transformation over the period of this wave spell is to recognize any of those blockages and imbalances that we mentioned, bring back self-love, be love as you share this period of festivities, of the holidays, bring more of the love that you have experienced to receive and to share with the others. Be more compassionate, let's be more tolerant, free yourself and your life from any of the drama. Let's try to stay away from the drama. And we're going to talk about the 3rd of January, which is a very strong aspect we need to pay attention to. So very important to stay away from drama, unnecessary drama, of course. Heal the root cause of any emotional things that you spot now. It's a very good moment to do any core wound transformation, and absolutely reconnect to your guides and guardians.
Right, and as we've shared before in other videos, the heart is really the conduit or the portal, we can say, in our inner technology that connects us to the higher realms of consciousness, not so much the lower emotional realms of the astral planes, but the more 5, 6, 7, 8th dimensional aspects of our own consciousness, our higher self. And when we connect into that space, that's when we find that unconditional love, where compassion and forgiveness can flow from, but also where the higher mind inspirations can be drawn down from heaven to earth, which is, of course, something we've been talking a lot about in our tribe over the last few weeks and couple of months.
So I have another slide about the white dog, which has just a few more tips. I do think it's a very important point during this shift, and we'll expand more during the astrology section. But here, this is an energy that is calling us to recognize the companions of destiny. As we show ourselves more and more authentically, the true beings that we are, we get to feel more empowered, and we start to attract more of that true family, which is our soul family. And you start resonating with certain people, certain groups, and then activate that sacred trust that we should have as human beings. As you get to see the being that is behind, we learn to connect through the eyes and through the voice and the frequency of the other person. So it's also a good moment to develop the relationships with our guides, with our totems, with our guardians, spiritual guides. People don't even know that, some people don't know that they have guardians and allies and helpers that they can call to do a lot of the work that we're doing at this point. And many of those things can be done with simple techniques like visualizations, shamanic journeys, meditations, candle gazing. There are many ways of starting to reconnect with that part of yourself and to start calling in your spiritual guides. This energy of the white dog is also reconnecting us to truth and integrity. And also, when it comes to the connection in partnerships, a harmonious intimacy, which is born out of love, but there has to be good communication and healing all the way through. And so it's a good point to reevaluate your relationship and the purpose that it is serving. So it would be a good moment to do all of that balance with your relationship. This energy is also telling us that there is a breakthrough in our lives. It's a new beginning. That there are new allies and friends that we can connect to. We're doing currently the course called Heaven on Earth, and we're reconnecting with so many allies and guardians and air elementals, fire elementals, and amazing beings that are here to support this process. And finally, the harmonic wisdom of the white dog is affinity. Who do you feel affinity with? Do you have a tribe? Do you have a friend? Do you listen to some podcast that is in the same frequency as you are, because there is that magnetism? And now at this point of the evolution and the shift, or what we call ascension as well, we are tapping into the same frequency with many groups. And so all of these networks are being created, because as everything else collapses, we need to be in place for the next part of the journey.
Right, and I think that's really interesting. And I just made some notes on that, Bella, because one of the things that we've been seeing in our QPW, the QPH tribe over the last couple of years is that even though probably virtually all of us have never met in person, is that we've been on profound journeys, shamanic vision quests together, both individually in our own worlds, but then collectively through the shared container spaces that we've created. And as a result of that, we are starting to perceive, many of us, that we can communicate telepathically, that we can send information to each other. And as a consequence, we've actually been working together in various different ways to uncover pieces of information about ourselves, about our forgotten or even obliterated history. And in doing so, we're understanding that we are actually part of a bigger oversoul, maybe a tribal oversoul, a community oversoul. So this is very much in accordance with the energy of the white dog. And really, I think, is opening a portal or a window to what is about to come next, which is a more collective unity consciousness.
I'd like to emphasize here that this wave spell has double the amount of this energy, is guided by the white dog. So we have a lot of this heart energy to do this process. As usual, these are the questions that you can follow day by day according to the glyph that is shown in the wave spell. Anything else on that?
No, so here we have, as always, the Western tropical astrological points that we've pulled out. So we're going to be focusing more on the mundane aspect of astrology today. Many of you will have been seeing our deep diving into the realms of the 13 signs of the sidereal astrology, which we still think is incredibly important. But right now, we want to focus on what is going to play out in the mundane, because at this point, whatever spiritual work we've been doing, either individually, collectively, community-wise, or as a tribe, is going to appear in the 3D world, otherwise known as the mundane world. So I have pulled together the major talking points, not necessarily going to be talking through them one by one. We're going to be focusing very much on the energy of December the 25th, the Christ Mass Day, which interestingly is a day 2 in this wave spell, which is normally a day of the challenge. So this could be where we have to practice everything that Bella has said over the Christmas table whilst we're eating our favorite festive food, because with all of the polarity that is in the collective energy at the moment, with all of the narratives that are being presented to us, the choices that we've all had to make over the last couple of years, there is still, I'd say, a fair amount of division that could surface at this most challenging of times, which is actually meant to be a time of harmony and balance and of delight. But due to the hijacking of the energies of this time of year, due to the unparalleled amount of distractions that we get offered during the festive period, particularly in the Western world, chances are that we're not paying attention to any of this, and perhaps more likely getting triggered by things not going the way that we want on Christmas Day, which I'm sure we've all had some experience of in our lifetimes at some point. The other major chart that we're going to pull up for this particular wave spell is what Bella already alluded to, the Jan 3rd Mars opposition of Pluto, happening in Leo and Capricorn, because it seems to be another crunch point. And if you're maybe not watching the narratives, but feeling into the energy flow of what is going on, it's been very clear, certainly to us, that there has been a series of compression points over the last week or two, some of them coming rapid fire. In fact, even in the last couple of days, like yesterday, we observed a number of different compression points that happened in the space of a few hours, with releases and downloads and insights about what is happening in the collective space. And some of it's challenging, and that's where we have to hold our own space with boundaries, working with plants that we've recommended before, like nettle, and ensuring that whatever is happening, we're not getting pulled into other people's dramas or narratives, whether of the personal, social, family kind, or whether they're of the collective kind. So I think that's it, really. There are a couple of other interesting points that I want to pull out. I particularly was curious about December the 28th, day 5, when Venus squares Uranus, a particularly kind of spicy interaction, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in the show. So let's have a look at this chart. And, well, some big things have dropped into our awareness, right, Bella, as we were preparing for this show, not least of all the fact that the moon on Christmas Day is going to be conjunct the first of the 4 stars of the Crux constellation. These are stars that, as we can see, are highlighted, Decru, Gacru, Mimosa, and Acru, which form the 4 pillars of the Christed consciousness, with the sacred temple of the Christed consciousness held in the middle of that. This is a very, very important time of the year. And we were intrigued to see this, as Bella's going to explain a little bit more about the effect of the moon when it goes into our sun signs, which for us is Scorpio. So this is actually what allowed this information to come through. But we tried to track when was the last time that the moon hit the Crux constellation in recent times. And we had a lot of trouble with this. We tried all different combinations of sacred numbers and patterns. Couldn't find anything. Maybe some of you out there will know if there's a software that can track these things. I couldn't find anything until we decided to go back 2,000 years to the nativity time, so-called, of the birthing of the Christ consciousness. Boom. We got it hit there. So we'll show that in a minute. And we are going to put lots of disclaimers around this information, which many of you will understand. But this is what came through. We wanted to share it. But before we get to that point, we do have a number of other important things going on, right, Bella?
Right.
So we are still shaping up for that Pluto-Mars opposition that is coming through. And yes, it's currently in a 3-degree orb, but it means that it's still in play. It's not at the peak of its energy. We have already had that once, but Mars is now retrograding back towards that point again. And what we really want to draw attention to with the Christmas day is some of the things that we've already mentioned, which is this is day 2 of this wave spell of the heart. We've got the moon, which is really coming into play, connecting with these 4 stars. And I want to put this out actually to everybody who has any major placements in Scorpio, between around, we can say 4 degrees of Scorpio to around 13 degrees of Scorpio. Any of you who have your sun sign or your birthday, probably from around the 25th of October to around the 5th of November, are probably going to have your sun activating at least one of these 4 stars and maybe all of them. So just putting that out there for any of you who have those placements, because this energy is going to come to you directly and is going to be something that we want to invite you to put your attention to, because we think that this is perhaps something that may not have even happened for 2,000 years. Again, disclaimers around that. We'll get into that in a minute. Is there anything you want to add to that, Bella?
Right, so I'm going to explain a little bit of what has dropped as part of this information with the Crux constellation. So every month the moon will go to the sign of our birth on our natal chart, and it will activate the sun and that part of our chart. And that is the point where you can actually activate not only your Kundalini energy, but from the solar plexus, the energy that goes to your pineal gland, the secretion of the oils that are part of the Christus, and activate all of our holomind perceiver and everything that is connected to the Christ consciousness. So we all have the opportunity of once a month do this consciously, but it's not been a knowledge that is been out there. It's always been secret knowledge, occult, for a reason, because as we do, we empower ourselves and we get to create our new reality. So why is this important now? Because the moon is hitting those constellations during the Christmas time when the Christ consciousness is there. And as Davyd was saying, we couldn't find anything except 2,000 years ago in the first year of the Gregorian calendar, according to our calculations. This also happened. And the other thing that happened, maybe we can show the chart for the next, for that. Yes. The other thing that we found is that Pluto was also at 0 degrees, which means that it was starting a whole epoch at the same time as the moon was activating each one of those stars of the Crux constellation. So the way we feel this is happening is this could have not happened for 2,000 years, and it could be that birth of the Christ consciousness with lots of people being aware of that, because the moon is bringing what is in the subconscious part to the conscious, to the front, and to the awareness. And if we all are aware of this and go through this portal, I think this could be the beginning of the new Christ consciousness era.
Right, so yeah, thank you, Bella. So it did take a bit of playing around, programming in different dates, and I want to be very clear that we understand that the Gregorian calendar only kicks in 1582 after the 13 days that disappeared. We've talked about that in many previous videos.
Yeah.
And for those of you that have been following us for a while, you'll see that there is always a progression to what we're tracking. We're following energy threads.
Yeah.
We might call them timeline frequencies, but we're following threads that actually are part of a looping or repeating pattern, which of course is a lot about the Mayan time technology and why they were tracking certain things. We understand that through the Mayan glyphs that we are on certain cycles, like the Zolkin or the 13-day wave spells. And so there are many loops or portal points that we can put our attention to and find that there are loops of similar things happening in time. We're not the first people to have realized this. And we can say that some of this has been obliterated or wiped from our memories in recent times so that we're not aware of it. So I pulled up this chart here, which is for midnight on Christmas Eve, we can say. And lo and behold, we've got some very, very interesting exact conjunctions. Now, again, this is using the Gregorian calendar, and it's assuming that we're tracking it back beyond this 1582, which we know is riddled with some problems because of all of the meddling with the timelines.
Yeah.
But we wanted to show this to you because this is how it came through as a piece of information, which is often how we get our downloads. And we think that it's important for the reasons that Bella has just shared. But as we can see here, we have the moon hitting literally to the minute, the first of those stars, Decru, here over on the left-hand side where Bella's put this. But it's not in the sign of Scorpio as it now is. It's actually in the sign of Libra, which also makes me think a lot about the offset between the sidereal and the tropical astrology, which is roughly about a sign back. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. If we go back 2,000 years, it's taking us back a whole sign, which is apparently, some people have suggested, when the two different astrological systems start to separate, which may also give us some indication about some timeline tampering or maybe an offsetting of the angle of certain things. And as we've shared before, this sort of 24, 25 degrees offset between the sidereal and the tropical roughly equates to the same difference between the Earth's current calibration with the magnetic pole. It's about 24 degrees adrift of its true original setting, which may go back to this point of the birth of the Christed consciousness or the attempt of the Christed consciousness birth. And we've included here a couple of images which I hope really put the point across. So this is not about Jesus or Yeshua, about the male figure, but is actually what happens when two energies of masculine and feminine, the Yeshua Magdalene principles, come into balance, which is also represented by the six-pointed star.
So this is really key, because if you guys, those of you who follow us, remember, we've been working with integrating serpents, the constellation of the male serpent and female serpent, which brought wisdom and healing, and were hidden because they are the Ophiuchus in the 13 signs sidereal. They are they are part of that system, but in this astrology, we don't activate consciously the serpent's constellation. So we've been talking about how we needed to integrate these energies within ourselves, because they reconnect, first of all, reconnect us to the center of the galaxy. Second, they activate this energy within ourselves, the one that we're talking about raising our kundalini and all of these magical oils and technology we have within our bodies. So this is the way to ascend. This is what part of the teaching that happened 2,000 years ago, and it got so manipulated in so many different ways. It was supposed to get us to a point of balance of the masculine and feminine, but now we get another chance at doing this. This time, we're going to do it with Pluto in Aquarius, which means it's not just one being or two beings, but many people that could get activated and bring the Christ consciousness to the planet.
Right. So again, I just want to highlight a couple of points that Bella has already brought forth. And if we look at these images here, we see two beings, a male and a female, very regal, very royal, connecting through the heart. One image is of one heart and one is of two hearts, but connecting and holding those heart energies. And here we see these luminous halos or hollow mind perceivers, which has been, I think, largely misunderstood by many people. But when we've been working with the 12 strands, or 13 if we include the hidden one of our DNA, activating those and releasing the traumas of the fallen or lower notes or the incoherent aspects of our DNA and elevating to the reconnected, recalibrated aspects of our DNA, as our Mayan brother, Jose Arguelles, brought forth many moons ago, this actually activates the hollow mind perceiver. And what is that? It's a piece of super quantum technology that allows us to connect to all of the aspects of our DNA, fully activated with full remembrance and the ability to bilocate our consciousness, our sensory awareness to other timelines, other locations, or even to other beings. Hence what we were talking about, what we're seeing in our tribe for many of us who've been going through a series of initiations over the last few years, putting into place the work with the plants, clearing out the density, the lower frequencies, understanding that the Gregorian calendar, even though we're using it here for this chart, is actually a manipulation or a distortion, and perhaps we want to be working with the more creative aspects of the fractal time technology, which is the original fractal time of the universe. When we've been looking into the past using these mechanisms, we can see that there was an explosion somehow, or fragmentation of the spiral of time, which is another way of saying that this last period that we've been in, where we have all of these distorted timelines and chaos. And when we look back through the linear time that we were taught at school, certainly from my perspective over the last year of studying this, I get the feeling there were lots of splices and bits of history that were stitched together, which are then presented in manuscripts and textbooks and so on, all to support the idea. But of course, we weren't there. Like many things going on in our world, we're not there to witness them. And all we have are second-hand accounts that we don't really know what the agenda or propaganda behind them was. So putting all of that into the consciousness, but also just wanted to pick out here, what are the chances of pulling up a chart with all of this in mind, where we have Pluto having just entered this sign of balance, or we can say also of the masculine and feminine energy, at 0 degrees and 5 minutes, but being absolutely in opposition to the minute with Uranus, which has just entered Aries, having just finished its cycle in Pisces, which is often considered to be the end of something, but also the beginning.
Look at the amount of squares and those crosses. So look at what Saturn is doing, also opposite Venus, Sedna, and the Sun. So a strong opposition of Chronos, or Father Time. So I think that was the beginning of how this era of 2000 years started.
Right, and also here we have Sedna having just entered the sign of Capricorn, which also really in some ways mirrors the energy of Sedna, the planet of transformation, of letting go. And when we let go, we become a much greater aspect of ourselves. I love that story about the mermaid energy and everything that Sedna is about. But it's now just entered Gemini, I think. So we've got these big loops and deltas that we've just been talking about, showing in our awareness here. And again, we are saying all of this with the disclaimer about Gregorian calendar and the illusion of the linear time and everything else. But we think this is something really, really important, because we've been feeling this energy anyway over the last couple of weeks. Hence why we've been putting out all of these videos. We are the creators. We are now in a quantum consciousness timeline or universe, a new cuboid of the universe, as our friend and mentor, the Ascended Master Zach, has been talking about for a long time. And so that is why we've been really inviting all of you to pay so much attention to this period that we're in exactly today. We're transmitting this quantum compass from the heart of the womb space. And today is also the day of cooperation, which is often when we like to put these shows out, because it's the cooperative energy of the masculine and feminine energies of myself and Bella, putting this together from our hearts to share with all of you. So hopefully these shows are always received in that way anyway. And perhaps this is also just a moment to say thank you, everybody, to all of you who followed us. We have seen that YouTube is not necessarily supporting our work, but we do feel the support of all of you who do watch the show. And if you like this show, please, of course, hit like and subscribe. And if you want to share this with other people that you think might benefit from the frequency that we put out as quantum navigators, please do share too, so that more of this information can be put into the awareness of people, particularly those perhaps who have important placements or birthdays in the early parts of the Scorpio sign. So is there anything else you feel like we need to share from here, Bella?
Well, I think more than anything from the chart of the Christmas day. So we feel that there is a huge opportunity on that day to reconnect to that energy through the moon activating all of those stars which are part of the Christ consciousness. So it's beautiful if you want to connect. It doesn't matter if you believe in Jesus or if you believe in Magdalene or any of those things. It's beyond those beings. Is more about the energy that is inside of us, that is in our heart, that connects us to compassion, to tolerance, to wanting to create a better world for ourselves and our families.
Right, good point. And we just wish to reiterate again that we're not religious people, but we are spiritual people. And we believe that the Christed consciousness is a frequency that only really kicks in and activates the hollow mind perceiver when we have that internal balance of the masculine, feminine, not necessarily just in a partnership, but first and most primarily within ourselves. And once we have that activated, then it's much easier to meet the other in an equal and opposite way. And that is why we've actually been doing the whole course with our tribe, Heaven on Earth, which you can still all join at any point if you wish, by working with the inner elemental energies. We have to balance our air, our fire, our water, our earth, and then, of course, our ether energies. And if they're out of balance, they're going to show up, I think, more rapidly and more conspicuously with the energies of the time that we're currently in.
Correct.
So I think that's enough about Christmas Day. I do want to perhaps just pop back a couple of slides to here, December the 28th, Venus in 23 degrees of Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus. Now, this energy can be very much about relationships. And if relationships are perhaps not in alignment or in balance, then they could show up. If there's any shadow in the relationships, I think that this square is going to show them. But if there is love and balance in partnerships and relationships, well, then things can perhaps go to a more elevated perspective, which is why we brought in the plant that we're going to be sharing a little bit later on. But I wanted to highlight this because I think it's very much a lot of what we've just been talking about. And it's our opportunity to see very quickly after this energy, whether we're still out of balance or whether we're in balance and able to have a beautiful Christmas, perhaps with our partner.
Right. And day 5, which is the day of that square, is a day of being in the center. Again, reminding us, remember to go to your heart and live from that point of view, from that experience.
Right, we do have a couple of other interesting little bits and pieces coming up, but the thing that caught my eye, Bella, is it's not going to actually be in this wave spot. It's going to come on the next wave spot on January the 11th, which is when the North Node enters Pisces. So that is something I think that is going to have quite a profound change or shift in collective consciousness. So let's move on to the other chart that we wanted to look at, which is perhaps the one that we're putting a little bit more of, I wouldn't want to say a warning because we're not really in that mindset, but perhaps to pay attention to. This is the day of liberation of the heart. And if we have had those polarizing challenges on Christmas Day, and we've managed to surf them, navigate them well, then probably this energy is not going to come in too challenging a way. But perhaps if we haven't navigated that so well and there's, let's just say, fallout or lingering threads, then my intuition tells me, Bella, it's probably going to start to erupt or appear around about this date.
Yes, and this is the second standoff that they have. There was one on November the 3rd. This is the second time that there is this opposition of Pluto and Mars. And we want here to really embody everything that the white dog is telling us. Is go back to your heart. Don't react. Don't have unnecessary drama. Don't react to violence. Obviously, you need to defend yourself if there is a situation like that. But the best thing is to avoid any of those things that could be lingering. So maybe avoid very busy places around this time and try to concentrate your energy into what we're talking about, which is compassion. Dream about what you want moving forward in the next couple of months, and bring more of the dreams into manifestation.
Right, so actually, I am just going to pop back a couple. Sorry for jumping around a little bit, but I just something else occurred to me is that we have on January the 2nd and then on January the 5th very positive aspects. First of all, a trine. Mars is going to trine the North Node in Aries, and then just really a week or so before the shift of the North Node, we're going to have Pluto sextiling the North Node in Aries, and these are the two rulers of Scorpio, the sign of transformation. But these are positive aspects. And so I feel if we've been following the flow of the energies as we have and as we were sharing here and in our previous videos, then we can start to think about the change of our future collective and personal destiny through the North Node with these positive transformational and sometimes fiery, but also action-based energies of Mars and Pluto. So I just wanted to bring that into the mix. And yeah, also, Bella, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, correct me if I missed it, but there are some things that we should perhaps avoid around the energy of when these opportunities arise with the moon in our sun signs, and about perhaps having certain disciplines.
Oh, we were talking about this. So on the day of Christmas, especially, and I know that the social upbringing affects this a lot as well. So that day, the recommended thing, many people are not going to like this idea, but especially on that day, even if it's this year, for those of you that resonate with this, of course, if we want that energy to be lifted to our pineal gland and awaken the crystals or the Christ consciousness inside ourselves, we should avoid alcohol on that day and that evening, because the energy is the whole day up to the morning of the 26th of December. Also, so besides alcohol, in sexual relationships, intimacy, and also too much junk food, things that are not healthy for our body. So some of you might resonate and say, hey, I'm going to give it a go. Maybe this is the biggest opportunity to activate this within ourselves. And this is what we wanted to put it out there. We didn't find this to have happened for 2000 years. And when something like this drops, it's because it's important. So you can do your own research, sit with the information, see if it does resonate with you or not. But these would be the recommendations. You want to be in deep meditation on that day. And I know that it might be difficult because we'll have family around, but see if you can find at least a little space for you on that day to do that connection.
Right, and we do understand this, being humans ourselves and having enjoyed many Christmases previously to this, it can be difficult to perhaps step away, even just temporarily for a few days, particularly this time of year, from the boisterous festive activities, which normally in the Western world do mean imbibing alcohol. I'm sure most people enjoy their Christmas Day drinks or even their Christmas Eve get-togethers down the local pub. I certainly have in many moons. And I think you too, Bella, particularly in Colombia, right? So we understand all of that there's a big kind of inconvenience to what we're sharing. However, we're sharing it because we think it's important. And maybe I might also add something else to that, which has just occurred to me, which is when I was doing dietas in South America and we were trying to be with the energy of the medicine that we were working with, we were, of course, were told to avoid alcohol and intimacy, but we were also told to avoid red meat. So that's not come into our awareness, but I'm sharing it here because it did just drop in for me. And I know most of us generally tend to probably have turkey at Christmas, which is okay. But if we think about the internal processing and digesting of meat in particular, then it can take a lot of energy to do that, which may in some way affect the process. So just putting it out there, it wasn't in our original list, but it may be something to pay attention to. And yeah, it sounds like it could be kind of like a hermit frugal Christmas from the way we're sharing, but we're understanding that actually it could be quite the opposite. It could be an incredibly illuminating experience with a little bit of discipline and some boundary work.
And so is there anything else?
No, I think that's it on the astrology.
So this is the highlight.
And we've said all of that.
Which is, let's bring some cinnamon, a little bit of spice into the mix. And it's such an important plant as well, such an important spice.
Right, I've written here in the title, cinnamon, ancient fire spice. Many people consider that cinnamon is possibly the most ancient of spices, of course, originating on the spice and silk routes of the Far East and the Middle East in times past, and making its way through those parts of the world into the rest of the world's consciousness. But as a medicine, cinnamon has lots of great properties. It is antioxidant, it is anti-inflammatory, it can defend against so-called infections. But also, this is the bit that caught my eye most of all at this time of the year with a lot of what is currently out there in the collective narratives, that this can be good against cold and flu. And I think many of us are starting to perhaps understand that influenzas and similar things may not be quite what we've been told before. And we are on YouTube, so we'll keep it, leave it there. But also this incredible medicine plant contains compounds that can slow the effect of Alzheimer's, which again, without getting too much into a rabbit hole, is something that's been appearing a lot, apparently, in our collective awareness narratives. And of course, we've already posited various ideas about why that might be, both here in Quantum Compass, but also with myself and Pete in the Web of Weird show, where we go into those rabbit holes a little bit more. And we've been told that these are irreversible. I don't believe that at all. I think that these are perhaps neurological conditions that have been imposed or put into our systems to create these kind of memory lapses or loss of memory, all of which is a big part of what we've been talking about with the removal of our timeline awareness of our own history. So just wanted to put that in there. Also, possibly anti-cancerous. Indeed, many medicine plants really are anti-cancerous. And that's also something that we're investigating more of. Well, what is cancer really? Especially as many people talking about turbo cancers and all of these kinds of things. So this is a medicine, along with pretty much every medicine we've ever shared, I think, Bella, that can help with all of these things. And again, if you want to be of a spiritual nature, I recommend working with plants like cinnamon, which, by the way, go really well with other medicine plants like
chocolate.
So maybe we can replace our Christmas alcoholic beverage with a nice cacao cinnamon infused drink, which will open the heart valve. And if we have this kind of spicy medicine, which perhaps actually, given what we've said about the need for keeping our energies to ourselves over Christmas Day, perhaps shouldn't be rolled out until maybe the 26th, 27th, or maybe the 28th when Venus does that square. So just wanted to put that in there. But also this actually, as a plant, can enhance our psychic powers. It can open up the third eye, open up our critical awareness to the other realms of consciousness. And in doing so, this plant also creates protective barriers or vibrational frequencies, which will allow us to do that in safety. So I also want to bring in one other plant here, apart from cacao, Bella, which is our friend Mullein, the Sword of Light.
Before you go to Mullein, I wanted to share that when we do the smudging, cinnamon is one of the favorites when it comes to blessings. So first you do smudging with cleansing plants like rosemary and ruda and eucalyptus and some of these other ones, artemisias maybe, sage. But then when you do the blessing, this is one of the best ones to use to do the blessing smudging around the house or to put it in your altar, to do your rituals. It's one of the most powerful ones to bring abundance and all of the things you just mentioned before.
Right, hence that beautiful image there on the left. And interestingly enough, we have just released the third module in the Heaven on Earth program that many of you are perhaps participating in. And we just completed the element of fire, and cinnamon is very much connected to the element of fire. And one of the major aspects of the fire elemental from the spiritual perspective is its ability to not only transform, but to purify. Which I would suggest is something that is going to become very, very obviously present in our world in the coming days, even and weeks. Why? Well, because it's absolutely necessary. And, you know, at the risk of sounding like a stuck record, we've been saying for a long time that the purification of the things that no longer serve us is what really allows us to access the hollow mind perceiver, because it's the density where the light cannot penetrate that keeps us ensconced in old patterns, old programs, old belief systems. And if we're still clinging on to those, well, we're denying ourselves the opportunity to have these other much bigger consciousness experiences. So it's a nice segue there. Thank you, Bella, into Heaven on Earth. You can join this course at any time. The first module was very much about setting out the inner compass using the medicine wheel and showing how we can activate our own inner medicine wheels. And then we work through each module by looking at, first of all, the air elemental, which is very much about higher mind, connection to our spiritual destiny, also by talking to our higher selves, and then bringing the breath of life, the air, and giving it to the flame, which is also the creation point, which very timely is exactly what we're in right now. Since the solstice in the womb space, we want to be illuminating the darkness in there with our own creation flames, calling on guardians such as Archangel Michael and other powerful fire beings. We've been also engaging in a purification process, right, below, working with the flame through the very old practice of Agnihotra.
Yeah, the Vedic Agnihotra, which is a beautiful and ancient ceremony that you do with fire to purify not only the environment, but for healing, it has amazing benefits to reduce stress, to heal. Like, it's been so powerful. I've heard amazing testimonials with all kind of diseases being healed through this practice.
Right, and in my own ongoing healing process that I've shared a little bit about in various shows, I decided to use the smoke and the energy of this practice and put my feet through the smoke, and lo and behold, within 24 hours of doing this for the first time, I suddenly went through some very weird but strong recalibration clicks in my body as the tendons, which is still really the last part of my healing process, recalibrated themselves. The part of me that got broken, the heels, has binded very well, but in doing so, the tendons themselves had to recalibrate. And in doing that healing process over the course of this year, I began to realize that actually my inner tendon framework had been out for a very, very long time and is now going through a slightly weird and uncomfortable recalibration process. But there was an instant effect, right? And there were some very loud clicks and crunches that happened. And thankfully, those have passed somewhat. But this is a time where we can purify the physical ailments that have perhaps been bothering us, maybe in recent times or perhaps for a long time. So anyway, just wanted to share this for those of you that feel called to start doing this work. And we also, just concluding, a special solstice Christmas Day sale that we've been having with 26% off all of the other courses on quantumplanet.world. And we really, again, inviting all of you to step into the processes that many of our tribe have either completed or in the process of completing, hence why we've been having a lot of very, very cool, far out discussions about the nature of time. How do we split our consciousness into multiple levels or dimensions? How do we time travel? How do we access various parts of our soul's journey on other planets, in other parallel timelines, even here on Earth? And how perhaps can we access the New Earth timeline in a different way by understanding that there was an original blueprint that is in the etheric makeup of planet Earth, but perhaps got knocked off kilter at a certain point in time, as yet undesignated, but perhaps we're getting close to understanding when or how that might have happened.
We've been receiving some amazing testimonials of the people finishing the navigation guide to quantum consciousness. Thank you to all of you that have gone through the process. It is amazing to hear how it's opening the multidimensional part of yourself and how you are now dreaming into New Earth, just the same way that we are. And so this is going to be available up to the 25th of December.
Midnight on the 25th of December, yeah.
Same as the Mayan Time and Magic. Again, lots of people with good, amazing testimonials and many questions on that they want to join. And this would be the best way to start the path. If you haven't done much with us, the best way to start is the Mayan Time and Magic course, and then go into the navigation guide, and then see what else calls you. It could be the Stellar Nations, or it could be that you go for the Heaven on Earth course. But this is being all the way through guided by our helpers, guides, higher self, and even Zach, that is part of our crew as well.
Also, I just want to, sorry, but I just want to pop back 2 slides there. So for those of you that haven't clocked this already, this is a 13-part journey which absolutely mirrors the 13 steps of a wave spell, the 13 tones. And this is how you can understand how every single day, when you're working with the universal energies that are available to you, every single day can be an amazing day of creation and adventure and insights and downloads, which is pretty much how we've been living our lives now for the last couple of years. Hence why it can be far out and magical, but also incredibly illuminating, as many of our tribe members have already discovered. So if you're going to give yourself a nice Christmas gift, perhaps you want to step up and take the opportunity here with a nice 26% off. So I just wanted to point that out too. And of course, Bella, activating the grail within.
Right. And this is what we were also guided to do, which was offering the combined knowledge that we have and practices. And so you can activate the grail within, which means that Davyd will be doing the clearing of your energy field and going to timelines if anything needs to be done in the area, fragments. And I do the part of biodecoding, any core wounds that need to be released. And then we go into the galactic signature, which is the Mayan cosmology. So you activate your archetype within the Mayan cosmology.
Right, and I think if without checking the diary, I think we do have a couple of slots left before the end of this year. And if you're feeling that perhaps you're very close to a breakthrough or there's some sort of loop that you've got stuck in, that's really what we're good at, is busting those loops, finding the circuit breakers that are causing them, whether they're in this incarnation or what we might call a parallel timeline incarnation, releasing them, going to the point of trauma origin, releasing it, and then actually releasing all of the bioresonant shocks out of the field that then can assist in that hollow mind perceiver activation. So that's really it, I think, for this show, right, Bella? So let's just take that down and come back to the... There we go. So we are here with our beautiful Christmas tree. We're definitely recommending all of you to perhaps approach this Christ Mass, this Christ consciousness moment in a way that maybe you haven't done before. We do understand the last few years have actually rendered many of us having different Christmases, perhaps not so family orientated as before, perhaps not so community orientated before, for all of the reasons that I'm sure all of you already understand. However, this is something that we want to change moving into 2025. We're definitely feeling the call to meet up with like-minded people where we can meet each other as equals and opposites and dare to dream of how our new earth is not just going to be in our minds, but by bringing heaven down to earth and giving it that action of the fire, which is exactly what we're doing in this moment here in the womb space of Mother Earth, in the primordial waters. And so interestingly enough, the next element that we're going to be working with in heaven and earth is going to be the element of water, which in the medicine wheel that we're working with is the time of the harvesting, of the abundance, and getting ready to put everything into the bank for the winter. So we're a little bit ahead of ourselves here in comparison to the energies at play. But when we understand that this is a universal principle that we can work with every time we go around the Zolkin, every time we go around a castle with 4 wave spells, we're always doing these cycles. And if we're smart, we can tap into those energies and really work with them in a way that is not necessarily just in service to self, but in service to everybody. And in doing so, we start to hit those higher notes of the unity collective consciousness.
So we feel that we've been seeing the signs of a new earth being birthed. There was that big episode that we did about the 28th of October that we saw the Star of Davyd or the Merkaba, that 6-pointed star in the sky. We made a whole show about it, and we feel that was a beginning of something. Then we talked about integrating the serpent, which is the lower nodes. And then now we feel that we are opening the gates to this new Christ consciousness energy or the new earth energy. And we want to thank everybody, especially those of you that follow us, that are part of the tribe, that have come and do something with us, that have given us a testimonial, and that feel that we're resonating in the same frequency. Thank you for all of your support throughout all of these calendar year and through all of the Zolkin as well. And we hope to continue to do more of these for everyone.
Right, and in the tradition of recent shows, if you've made it this far to the video, you will be awarded a shiny gold bauble from our Christmas tree in the etheric planes. So well done, everybody, and please claim those in the comments below. And also, as we said with the Christmas chart from 2,000 years ago, we understand there are many disclaimers around all of that, but it's a piece of information that dropped in. So if any of you can do any more research into that, we're always very, very open to receiving that. There's been some incredible sharings in the comments recently. Some people expressing things in a way that even we were like, oh my gosh, wow, I wish I could have expressed it like that. So thank you again for all of you who do take the time to watch these shows all of the way through. Share those beautiful comments. And like we said, if you feel compelled, please do share with other like-minded people who could benefit from some of this in their awareness, or maybe even activate something for them at this Christ Mass time.
So the biggest message for this Quantum Compass show is be in your heart and share your love. Share the love with your family, with your partners, with your neighbors even. I know it's not easy for many people, but this is the time to do it. The more you smile to people, the more that you show your kindness, the more we'll get back. More of the same.
Right, and if in doubt, put the kettle on, get some of that nice cacao out of the cupboard, and maybe offer that troublesome next door neighbor a nice cup of hot chocolate and open the heart valves that way. So have fun with this period, everybody, but also please, we are inviting you into the same space that we're going to be entering into, are indeed actually already in And if enough of us collectively, particularly those of you who might have those strong Scorpio placements, put all of our attention to this on Christ Mass Day on the 25th at the return of the light. And actually, again, that's we didn't quite get to Mullin, but if you want to work with that powerful plant, Mullin, he really is the sword of light. He's really kind of like Michael's sword of light, which we also call Excalibur. He really helps open up the crown chakra, which allows us to connect to divine consciousness. So that's another plant that maybe you might want to have around as a tincture, a tea, or an essence, just to help open up those channels. So I think that's it for today.
Lakesh.
In Lakesh, I am another you.
Thank
We'll see you all again very soon. Happy Christmas, everybody.
Christmas.